Hey, generic YouTuber introduction here, and in this video I'm going to be attempting to explain what exactly direct damage is, and go over the other types of damage and what affects their scaling. So direct damage, what is it? Of all the damage types, it is the most common damage type, and scales to most of the skills. What does direct damage look like? Well, I'm going to define direct damage as anything the player can apply directly to a target, so surprise attack, right? Stuff like that. Anything that you're gonna apply directly to a target, not indirectly. By indirectly, I mean like vicious death, for example, if you're in PvP and that procs off of you killing some person, right? That damage is going to explode indirectly as a result of you killing somebody, and that's not direct damage, that's indirect damage. Same with dots. Dots, damage over time, the initial hit from rendering slashes or twin slashes here, that would be considered direct damage. But then you have a new type of damage, which is dot damage. That's not direct. So if you need to see the scaling of it, I'll show you real quick. So in order to do that, let's check the damage of our surprise attack. So keep in mind that's 5,711, and that was a crit. I don't remember that one, but I'll pause it here so you can see it. So Master at Arms increases your damage done with direct damage attacks by 2% per stage. Let's assign that to our bar. So remembering what our other damage numbers were, let's compare it. I did not confirm my champion points. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So direct damage. Check the number. We're already hitting considerably much harder, aren't we? See, I remember being 12k there on a crit, but now it's a lot higher and a lot more consistent. That's direct damage. And that's pretty much the simple summary of it. It's not really difficult to understand. It's something you can apply directly, maybe from your skill bar. Like Whirling Blades. That's direct damage. Soul Tether, direct damage. Initial hit from twin slashes, direct damage. Light attacks, heavy attacks, all of it, direct damage. Does that mean procs are direct damage, though? Procs would be considered direct damage because they're coming off of you as a player. They're not indirect, so to speak. So, yeah. Procs and the sets of those sorts, they are direct damage. My mistake. Master at Arms would buff your proc set damage. It's not going to show up on the tooltip, mind you, because that's a percentage increase. So, I guess I'll go over the other types of damage now. Yeah, this is without Master at Arms. Yeah, see? Both the numbers were a lot higher. So, like I mentioned earlier, I'll go ahead and talk about dot damage. Dot damage is damage over time. That's what dot stands for, right? And it's any damage you see with those little yellow or orange numbers there, right? You see those numbers? That's dot damage. And that's not going to be buffed by your, what's his face? Your Master at Arms. I keep forgetting the name of that. But it'll be buffed by Thaumaturge. Oh. Let me put some points into that real quick. Give me a minute. There we go. Alright, so remember those little dot ticks we got there, right? Oh, look at this. Check this out. Yeah, it's slightly higher. But this, because the dot damage from this twin slashes is so low. Mainly these percentage increases affect the bigger numbers, so the higher your weapon damage is, the larger the scaling becomes. So like if I were to use Rally there, we'll see the ticks are increased. Yeah, see? About 200 more damage. And the obvious ones, the more obvious ones I'd at least think, are AoE and single target damage. So AoE, obviously anything that has an area of effect on it. So example, Whirling Blades here. And then single target, surprise attack, because that's targeting one target and not multiple. If I were to say group my Ogrim and the Bone Goliath into a group, which I'll do in a minute. See this, look, so if I use surprise attack, I'm only gonna hit this guy, right? If I use Whirling Blades, both of them are getting a beating, right? And that's the difference between single target and area of effect, obviously. Some skills don't say AoE specifically, they have like, see right there, under the cast time it says target area, and then target enemy. Enemy is single. Target area is obviously area, so any enemies caught in that 6-meter radius of Whirling Blades are going to take the damage from that, and that's where the scaling comes in for AoE. And that's all the main damage types. So if we're going to talk about weapon damage real quick, so weapon damage or spell damage, depending on whichever one you're spec'd into, it'll affect everything overall. So if you have a higher weapon damage, your AoEs, your single targets, even your healing, and your dots, they will all hit harder, right? Because your weapon damage is higher, or your spell damage, whichever one you're using. So to that effect, the most universal, besides direct damage, would be just overall weapon and spell damage. Wondering about ranged attacks. Are those direct damage? Well, let's find out. So here we have a bow. Just master's bow, why not? With snipe, right? So notice I took off the You didn't see that. So I took off Master at Arms, right? Okay, watch the number. Still shouldn't make a big difference. So now, we apply Master at Arms. Check this out. Yeah! Yeah! You see that? So, that doesn't just apply to bows. No, that also applies to staves. There we go. You can see, there's still a difference in damage. So, from light attacks to heavy attacks, hold on. Alright, that's a heavy attack. So right quick, I'm going to see if I can find an example of indirect damage that doesn't buff from Master at Arms. So I'm going to unassign this. My plan for that was to use Shade, so... Okay, go at him, boy. 1102, right? That was applied by something that I spawned in, right? It turns out pets are actually direct damage. It's interesting. So what about ground-based AoEs, right? Alright, so ground-based AoEs and stuff, whatever. Anything you put on the ground, does that affect? So I have the passive on right now. So thanks for making it this far. I hope the video helped you in some way. I had a lot of fun recording it and figuring these things out, but more importantly, I hope that you learned something about direct damage and the other types of damage. So I guess in the comments, if I missed anything, tell me about it. Give me some criticism, because in order for me to grow, I'm gonna need it. So yeah, thanks for watching, and goodbye.